Love him or hate him, Nolan Gorman is going to be a key piece of the Cardinals' ascension or demise in 2024 and beyond. This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. You can follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. If you want to stop by, like, subscribe, comment, interact with us. Love the interactions on the comment section. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. How can 10,000 Cardinals fans be wrong? They can't be, right? 10,100, I think, is where we got to today. So we keep growing, and it's because of you. So thank you very much. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is with PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. So happy Wednesday, because the Cardinals grabbed the win in Pittsburgh on Tuesday night. It was also manager Oli Marmol's birthday. Happy birthday, Oli. Turned the ripe old age of 38 years old. They get the win by a score of 7-4. It was worse than that at one point. They were actually up 6-0 before the Pirates mounted a comeback to make things a little bit more interesting later on in the middle innings. And one of the big reasons that the Cardinals jumped out to that 6-0 lead was because of the bat of one Nolan Gorman, which Oli, I don't know if you saw this, kind of predicted pregame, according to John Denton's story at MLB.com, saying, I really do believe Gorman will get out of this here soon and will help us in a very, very meaningful way. Couldn't have been more right, could he? And I actually noticed it when I was at the games over the weekend against Cincinnati, where not so much in the last game, but the fly balls where Gorman was just missing. He was just off on a couple of fly balls that would soar super high like normal and then just kind of die in front of the track or at the warning track. And you're like, he's close. He's getting there. If he can just... And finally it happened. Gorman's grand slam in the top of the fourth inning ends up being the big difference maker in this particular game. And hopefully it's a difference maker in what the month of July is going to be like for Gorman, who really just needs to flush the toilet on the turd that was June for the Cardinals. Still very young second baseman. I know it feels like Gorman's been around for quite a long time, like the better part of a decade. It seems like we've had him on the team, but we're talking about a 24-year-old guy, turned 24 in May, I believe, who's played less than 2 full seasons at the major league level. He's been on the team for 3 seasons, but he has only played like 100 and what was it? I tried to look it up, how many games it was. I forget what I put it at, but either way, it was less than 2 full seasons of Major League Baseball. So he's still very young, guys, and we're awfully hard on this dude. Especially knowing what we know, where coming up through the system, you knew that strikeouts were a problem. They were going to be a thing. The streakiness is something that we knew was kind of a thing from Nolan Gorman. It's just part of who he is as a baseball player. And you can either get on board with it or be angry about it all the time when he goes into these cold spells. Because when he's hot, he's like Death Valley hot, right? He's lava hot. But when he's cold, he is like East Antarctic plateau cold. The coldest point on the planet. It never feels like there's an in-between. It's either one or the other, which is kind of the type of hitter he is too, where it seems like he's either popping a dinger or he's striking out. And it can be maddening to watch. I'm not saying it's not. But we know this is the type of guy that he is. We know this. And I'm sure it's frustrating as it is for us as fans to watch. It's frustrating for Gorman and Oli and for Turner Ward and his teammates, for the front office, because you see how much talent he's got, how much raw, just easy power that he offers. And when he falls into these ruts that he does like he did in the month of June, it's rough to watch. And you've got two options. You can either bench him, which a lot of fans wanted Ollie to do, or you can keep playing him and putting him out there as much as you can because you never know when he's going to finally break out and then come up with that big knock like he did on Tuesday. Now, June was terrible. Nolan Gorman hit 141. Are you ready for this? You might try not to vomit when you hear these numbers, okay? He hits 141. 6 home runs is fine. 12 RBI is not great, considering he drove himself in 6 times. 42 strikeouts in 110 plate appearances. Wow, right? Not good. And then when you look even more recently, it's worse. Heading into Tuesday's game from June 5th through the 30th, which covers 24 games, Gorman was 7 for his last 84, which is an 83 batting average. There's not a 1 in front of that. 83. 2 home runs and 6 RBIs over 24 games. 37 strikeouts. Rough, right? Had people asking, didn't he have a rough June last year too? The answer is correct. Yes. 2023, Gorman hit 143 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs and 30 whiffs in the month of June. In 2022, hit 207 with 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 30 strikeouts again. So when you combine all 3 seasons in all 3 of his Junes put together, Nolan Gorman in the month of June, in his career, 73 games, he's batting 164, 12 home runs, 28 RBIs, and 102 strikeouts in 278 plate appearances. By far his worst month for batting average and strikeouts. So for whatever reason, June and Nolan Gorman do not get along. And maybe it's just something that we're like, all right, so June, he's going to suck. So get ready for it. You know how some people tend to like take off in a certain month. June is where Gorman just is not good. So to see the calendar flip to July, obviously a welcome sight for him, for us, for the Cardinals, everybody involved. And even though the month of June was as brutal as it was for Nolan Gorman, here's something that's crazy. He still leads the club in home runs with 17. He's second on the team in RBIs with 41. Donovan's got 42 now. His 17 dingers are still 5th in the National League, 10th in Major League Baseball. And another thing I'd like to point out, despite the tough month, the Cardinals kept winning. The Cardinals kept winning. So despite Ollie putting him out there every day, just hoping that eventually he'd get right, which I think is the right thing to do. You don't just start benching people after a couple of bad weeks, specifically a guy who's going to be a cornerstone of your team. You don't just toss him to the side after a couple of weeks. Give him a day off here and there. You don't bench the guy, especially when you're still winning, which the Cardinals were. His grand slam on Tuesday was the first grand slam for the Cardinals this season. The last Cardinal to hit a grand slam in Pittsburgh was Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt back in 2019. Gorman also had a single in the 6th inning, giving him his first 2-hit game since June the 4th, which is a span of 24 games. And hopefully this is just the beginning of another heater for Gorman. It'd be great. You could see kind of the weight come off of him as he came in after circling the bases. He gets into the dugout. And Gorman, who does not show a lot of emotion. If you've ever heard him in an interview or do anything, doesn't show a lot of emotion. He's pretty chill. Big old grin on his face. And it was great to see. And you saw the teammates around him and Ollie and the coaches just, oh, thank God. Because they want the guy to succeed. They like the kid. It just wasn't happening for him. So to see him finally get that big knock and do something huge like that made everybody happy. And it put a good vibe on the game, gave him a big 6-0 lead. Things were looking really good over on the pitching side of things after that grand slam too. So we're going to jump over to that, which included, pitching-wise last night, a record-setting performance for the Cardinals. This is Locked On Cardinals. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're even talking about the rival cities. I mean, you're watching the game in Pittsburgh on Tuesday night. You're going to watch it over the next couple of days, and you see how gorgeous that stadium is. Always voted one of the top 5 in Major League Baseball. Everybody loves PNC Park. They do. So going to see the Cardinals play in Pittsburgh is not miserable at all. Like, you want to go do that. You want to see that particular ballpark. Wrigley Field, obviously, huge. You know, you want to go be there if you've never done that before. I don't know if you want to go to Milwaukee. I haven't been there myself, but I haven't heard great things about the stadium itself, but I've heard a lot of good about the tailgating. So that'd be something too. And with Booking.com, you got the hotels, the bed and breakfast, the vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more available to you. Booking.com will hook you up. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. And let's not forget about all the Little League tournaments. Parents, you know what I'm talking about. You got to go to different cities all summer long. You're constantly traveling. Booking.com has got you covered there as well. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site, or you can go into the Booking.com app. Going to baseball games in St. Louis, it's a tradition. I'm sure you've been to a couple already this year. Even if the team isn't playing with the way you think they should play, you still get down there, right? You want to go to Ballpark Village. You want to go to Busch Stadium. You want to have a couple of adult beverages, a couple of hot dogs, some nachos, whatever it is, and cheer on your St. Louis Cardinals. And when you need tickets to the game, look no further than the Gametime app. They're an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app, they'll actually go down the closer you get to the first pitch. When I was at the games over this weekend, the game we went to on Saturday, which was, I don't know, what was it, 138 degrees outside, I think, on Saturday. It was a balmy day at Busch Stadium, but the tickets that we had, you saw the picture on Twitter. I was in the second row on the first base side, got those tickets on Gametime. That's right. And for way cheaper than they would have been on any other side, including the Cardinals website. So you got to check it out if you want to go to games, any events, really. It's not just sports. I mean, you can do, theater. You can do concerts. They got you covered in all of this stuff, guys. Comedy shows, all of it, all available on the Gametime app. And you get the all-in pricing, which I'm a huge fan of. You toggle this feature on. It shows you the total up front with no surprise fees. At checkout, you get views from your seat, so you know exactly what you're in for. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume because of all the shouting? Then make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the screaming. You can't miss analysis. You get the opinions. You get the news. And it's all streaming 24/7. So your schedule, it doesn't matter. You're working third shift. You're working early morning. It's always going to be available for you on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Kyle Gibson, back on the hill for the Cardinals on Tuesday night. Was trying to bounce back from a not-so-great start, let's be honest, against the Atlanta Braves. We were hoping for a lot better than what we got. Uncharacteristically, he was wild in this one against the Atlanta Braves. Walked the season-high 5 in that loss. And apparently after, it had nothing to do with health. Didn't have anything to do with the back issue, which forced him to miss his start in Miami. Said it was just a mechanical flaw while throwing from the stretch. Had to work on it, figure it out. She'll be fine. Was good to go. So the good news, not a health thing. And on Tuesday, for 4 innings, Kyle Gibson was as good as you've ever seen him. I mean, he allowed 1 hit, struck out 8, got a little help from the home plate umpire, Tripp Gibson. No relation to Kyle Gibson, so I don't want some cheating scandal to be brought up here. But Tripp Gibson, the home plate umpire, had a wide zone on Tuesday night, and the Cardinals picked up on that. Kyle Gibson a true veteran, realized that he was getting a couple extra inches off the sides of the plate. And he was like, all right, I'm going to use that to my advantage. And he absolutely did. At least three strikeouts were on pitches that were balls. Just being honest, they were. But it's not his fault. The guy's going to call it. Pirates can take advantage of it too. The Cards were up 6-0 in the fifth inning, thanks to Alec Burleson, his 2-run moonshot to right field, and then the Gorman grand salami. So Gibson was cruising, but in true 2024 Cardinals fashion, things had to get a little bit more interesting, didn't they? In the fifth inning, the Pirates get an infield single by Rowdy Tellez. Out of all people, an infield single by Rowdy friggin' Tellez. Hits a sinker at a launch angle of -49, traveled an estimated 2 feet. It was like 68 miles per hour off the bat. Hey, base hit. Little single towards third base. Then you get a single by Gonzalez. He gets Hayes to fly out, but then delivers a 3-2 fastball just right in Jack Sawinski's sweet spot. Crushes a no-doubter, 448 feet over the wall in right center field. And just like that, your lead is cut in half at 6-3. One batter later, he goes into a full count to Andrew McCutchen. Hits a sinker up in the zone over the wall in center field. Makes it 6-4. And just like that, the Pirates are right back in this ball game. And at the time, it got me thinking about Pop Warner sending Alec Burleson home in the previous half inning where, Burleson was out by, 40, 50 feet at home plate. Like, it wasn't even close. Cardinals are up 6-0, and I made the tweet where I was like, there's a difference in being aggressive and being foolish. Sending Alec Burleson on that particular play, a little bit foolish, even though you were up 6-0, because it wasn't even close. And now you got a 6-4 ball game, and you're like, uh-oh, is that run going to come back and haunt the Cardinals? You're hoping it wouldn't. But that wrapped up Gibson's night after he finishes off that inning. His final line, 5 innings, 4 runs, 5 hits, 8 punchies, 1 walk. Throws a season low 79 pitches, 22 of them coming in a stressful 5th inning. And I think that's part of the reason, because people tend to get on Ollie for pulling his pitchers, his starters, a little early. They're upset that he's pulling them at 80, 85 pitches. And for the most part, it usually has to do with how stressful that last inning was. And he said it before that he's thinking long-term with these guys. Like, he's not trying to stretch them to 95 and 100 pitches if he doesn't have to. And after a stressful 5th inning, I think that was where he's like, all right, well, he's thrown 80 and we got a fresh bullpen. Let's use him. Let's use him. So that's exactly what Ollie did. An unfortunate ending to the night for Gibson, but you had to like what you saw from him over those first 4 innings because he was lights out. And that's been more of the Gibson we've seen this year than the guy we saw for the 1 inning. And then what happened with the Braves. So bullpen takes over and they do what they do best. They just throw up some zeros like it's no big deal. How good has this bullpen been, guys? The combination of John King, Ryan Fernandez. First off, props to John King. All right. John King didn't make the team, get sent down, even though he had a good year last year when he came over from the Rangers, and has been excellent since the Cardinals brought him back up from Memphis. Ryan Fernandez, the Rule 5 pick that they got from Boston, has been outstanding. Guys that you weren't sure what you were going to get on the roster this year. And they're a big reason why the Cardinals are where they are right now. Of course, Jojo Romero, he pitched well last night. Didn't have to use Andrew Kittredge last night, which is great because those 3 guys just keep getting, they're almost every game, especially when the Cardinals are winning. Those guys are coming in, and they've been in a lot of tight ball games. So to not have to use Kittredge, that's a good thing. And, of course, you got Ryan Helsley, the anchor at the end of it all. The bullpen throws the final 4 innings. They allow 2 hits, no walks. They strike out 2 that seal that victory for Gibson. He moves to 6-3 on the year. Let's focus on Ryan Helsley real quick because deservedly he needs some attention. Ryan Helsley picked up his league-leading 31st save of the season last night, and in doing so, he sets a new St. Louis Cardinal record for the most saves before the All-Star break, which was previously held by Hall of Famer Lee Smith, who had 30 back in 1993. Now, I got a trivia question for you that I'll answer at the end of the episode. Can you name the Cardinal or who the Cardinals got in return for Lee Smith. So they traded him at the deadline in 1993. Traded him to the Yankees. Who did they get in return for Lee Smith in 1993? I'll be honest, I had to look it up. I had no idea what the answer was. I'll have that for you coming up in segment 3. But back to Helsley. Remember, blew his first save of the season back in March against the Dodgers. First save opportunity of the year. Cardinals won that game, by the way. I would like to point that out. But here we all said it. We're like, oh gosh, here we go again. Helsley's not going to be somebody we can trust. What are we going to do? We were all wrong. Anybody who felt that way, I did. I know it. We were all wrong. Since then, he has ripped off 31 straight saves in 31 save opportunities. Has not blown one since. He's got 3 losses in there. And sure, some of these saves have been pretty sweaty, but what a run this guy is on. And earlier today, he was named the NL Relief Pitcher of the Month for the second time this season. Won the award in March, April. Then in June, he had 12 saves, strikes out 21 hitters in 13 innings, allows 4 runs, 6 hits. He walks 10, which isn't great, but 2.77 ERA, 2.24 FIP. Opponents are hitting 136 against him in June. He's awesome. And keeping him healthy was always the key for Ryan Helsley. And apparently this year, limiting him to just the 9th inning. They came to a gentleman's agreement between Ollie and Ryan that 9th inning's yours. We're not going to use you in the 8th. We're not going to stretch you and try to get you to throw 2 innings in situations. 9th inning's yours. It's worked wonderful. It's worked wonders for him mentally, physically. He's been healthy so far this season, which is great. If he can cut down on the walks a bit, the dude will be virtually unstoppable. Seriously. If he didn't walk people, and that could be part of his mystique too, is you're not exactly sure where the ball's going to go as a hitter. So maybe that helps him a little bit, but if he cuts down on the walks, whew, my goodness. Just incredible stuff out of Ryan Helsley so far. So congratulations on his NL Reliever of the Month award. Second one, the other person who got it was Suarez for the Padres, in case you're wondering. All right, we're going to wrap things up with some fan feedback from Tuesday's show. A question about why is the team targeting a back of the rotation guy? Why wouldn't they just target a top arm at the trade deadline? I've got my thoughts on that coming your way next on Locked On Cardinals. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. You can get in on the daily action with your friends and become a part of the PrizePicks community. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. That's all you got to get. You can turn $10 into $1,000. What could you do with $1,000 this summer? Go on a fun little summer trip somewhere, go floating, hit the Merrimack Caverns. Hey, you can go to the boat and try to triple it if you want to. That's entirely up to you. It's your money. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select players' stats projections on Tuesdays to helping your lineup hit, or by getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. With the finals over in the NBA and the NHL, the hoops action, it don't stop. Women's basketball is still here on PrizePicks. Stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson. You can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out as well. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On. Plus, we've got our national shows, which cover every league. You can find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So yesterday, I threw out some more trade ideas, guys that I had thought about targeting, had some questions about them, specifically with the Blue Jays and the Texas Rangers. And of course, I think they both won yesterday and are starting to heat up a little bit. So maybe they aren't going to be people who want to trade. But I got a question from one of the listeners. Dennis Kelly writes, I don't understand why the Cardinals and a lot of fans are talking about looking for a number 5 starter. The team presently has a number of number 4 and number 5 starters already on the roster, in my opinion. Lynn, Palante, Gibson, and even Michaelis would all be considered 4 and 5 starters on a good team. If they're going to try to get another starter, how about aiming a little higher and give yourself a chance if you make the playoffs? Well, first, thank you, Dennis, for writing in. I appreciate that. So when it comes to what I was talking about in Tuesday's episode, it's more about what I think Mo will do type of situation. Okay. It's not exactly what I would do, but it's what I think John Mozeliak's going to do. It doesn't matter what I would do because I'm not in charge. And as of right now, your top arms that would be available, because there's so many people still like in contention for the playoffs, you've got Garrett Crochet and Eric Fetty of the White Sox and Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins, who's not even having a spectacular year. The Angels and A's, they're out of it, obviously, but I don't see a top of the market type of starter on their rosters. You could get some relievers from them, like the fact that Mason Miller is somebody that's being tossed around as somebody the A's might trade if the price is right. I mean, they said it's going to take a lot, but they don't have the starting rotation guys. And being that only guys like Crochet, Fetty, Luzardo, there's just not a lot of top arms available right now. The big boys like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, Houston, Atlanta, the aggressive teams, which I don't consider the Cardinals an aggressive team when it comes to making moves. Those guys with the bigger payrolls are looking at the same guys the Cardinals are. So my question for you, Dennis, do you honestly feel that the Cardinals and John Mozeliak would be likely to outbid any of those teams for the services of Garrett Crochet, Eric Fetty, or Jesus Luzardo? Will other arms become available as teams start to fall out of contention and out of the race? Sure. There'll be more eventually, but they won't be cheap either. And when your prospect pool was as depleted as the Cardinals was last year, it makes it really hard to give up multiple prospects that you just got in all the trades you made last year to give them up for these guys. If the organization was in a better spot, had like 6 or 7 top 100 guys, like the Orioles have had over the last couple of years, then it wouldn't be so difficult. Like the Orioles could trade tons of young talent to get these guys if they want to. That's another team you got to watch. But right now, the Cardinals only have 2. They got 2 guys in the top 100. So it's not like their organization and their minor leagues are just chock full of superstars in the making. They got some good players, but Teen Kentz and Quinn Matthews are the only ones in the top 100. And Matthews was number 100. Hintz was number 43. So it's not like he's like a top 15 guy. Now, would teams take people like Tekoa Roby, Cooper Jerpy, Victor Scott, Thomas Ajacey, Chase Davis? Chase Davis just won, just saw this come across, won the Florida State League Player of the Month, first round pick from last year. So, yeah, people would want these guys. Gordon Graceffo looked good in his debut over the weekend. Yeah, people would like these guys, but are those guys going to be enough to beat out these other teams and the prospects they're willing to give up? And are you willing to empty the cabinet on a team that is just 4 games over 500 right now? Is this the type of team that you want to go all in on and trade those guys for? So that's what leads me to believe that they'll go for a less blockbuster approach as they move towards the deadline. And instead we'll target some veteran arms who are on expiring or close to expiring contracts. They wouldn't cost them the level of prospects that those other names would cost you to acquire them. So that's why we say, they're looking for somebody at the back end of the rotation, a guy that's more of a 4 and a 5 to kind of fill that final spot that, despite Andre Palante doing okay in certain games, it's why. that you would see them trying to do something for that spot of the rotation and not chase down a number 2 arm or even somebody better than Sonny Gray. And again, we don't know who's going to be available yet. So there's still some time to figure that all out. But as of right now, it's not something I foresee the Cardinals doing. Could change, but as of today, on July the 3rd, I wouldn't suspect them chasing one of those big arms. Now, tonight, you've got one of your 4s and 5s in Miles Michaelis, who is 6-7 on the year on the bump against rookie Jared Jones, who's 5-6. Michaelis, remember, he went on that run, was dealing for a while there, but has had back-to-back starts that were quite underwhelming, specifically the last one against the Reds where he just got blasted. Can we never start Miles Michaelis against the Reds ever again, please? Because he gets creamed by them seemingly every time. Like, let's just skip his spot in the rotation if he's scheduled to play the Reds. It's not a good idea. 10 runs, 12 hits, 4 1/3 innings this last time out. I've seen enough. Let's stop that. First pitch, 5:40 St. Louis time tonight. And by the way, answer to your trivia question, who did the Cardinals trade future Hall of Famer Lee Smith for when they shipped him to the Yankees in 1993? Excuse me. Right-handed pitcher Rich Batchelor. Who? Exactly. Right-handed pitcher Rich Batchelor. Spent 3 years with the Cardinals, 3-1 in 30 games, 4.17 ERA. No saves. Not a great trade. Not a great trade. Wherever you are, Rich Batchelor, I'm sorry, but that was a terrible trade. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter, X, at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Please like and subscribe on YouTube to help our channel and love for the St. Louis Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals. Have a good one.